As you can see, I've just landed on the human world of Earth for the next episode of Extreme Cuisine with Groxnar.
Talara kept the camera steady as she followed her boss through the terminal, inwardly rolling her eyes at his theatrical posturing. Her own pale orange and yellow plates were considerably less ostentatious than her boss's dramatic coloring, fitting for a production assistant who preferred to remain behind the scenes.
For those new to our stream,
he continued, chest thrust forward proudly,
I am the galaxy's foremost expert on harsh environment cooking, having mastered the cuisines of over 50 death worlds. As a Paroxian, I evolved on the most brutal planet ever discovered. A world of constant volcanic activity, crushing pressure, and atmosphere thick with toxic compounds.
He paused for dramatic effect, towering over a group of human travelers who barely spared him a glance as they hurried past. His massive 8-foot frame cast impressive shadows under the terminal's lighting.
My people developed redundant organs and the galaxy's most advanced natural filtration systems just to survive. We conquered our world through biological superiority.
He flexed his arms in a display of Pyroxian pride, armor plates gleaming under the lights.
Today, however, we are taking a small detour to explore some of the galaxy's simpler fare.
Talara watched him adopt a subtly condescending posture as he gestured at their surroundings.
Earth is what most species would call a garden world. Mild climate, breathable atmosphere, minimal environmental hazards. While their cuisine likely won't present much a challenge to a chef of my caliber, I believe it is important to document even the most basic of cooking traditions.
The camera followed as they made their way to the hired transport waiting outside. Groxnar had to duck to fit through the doorway, his armored plates scraping slightly against the frame.
We'll be starting our journey at a local establishment called a steakhouse. Apparently one of their more prestigious dining venues. I expect it will be a rather quaint experience.
Hours later, they were set up at one of the city's most renowned steakhouses. The restaurant had accommodated Groxnar's size with a reinforced chair, and the lighting was perfect for filming. He was already launching into another monologue for the stream.
As you can see, the preparation method is quite primitive. Simply applying high heat to animal protein. Although, I must admit, the aroma is more complex than I anticipated.
He leaned forward as the server placed a massive ribeye before him.
They've even attempted to incorporate some basic seasonings.
Would you like fresh ground pepper, sir? The server asked, producing an elegant wooden grinder.
Of course,
Groxnar proclaimed magnanimously.
While I doubt such mild spices will register on my advanced palate, we should experience the full traditional preparation.
The server began grinding black pepper over the steak. Groxnar lifted a piece to his mouth, still narrating to his audience.
Note the simple but adequate presentation.
His voice cut off abruptly as he took his first bite. His entire massive frame went rigid, all 4 arms freezing in place. Talara zoomed in slightly, recognizing the signs of impending drama.
Is this some kind of joke?
Groxnar finally managed, his voice strained.
What have you sprinkled on my food?
The server blinked in confusion.
Sir? It's just fresh ground black pepper.
Just pepper.
Groxnar's arms trembled slightly as he fought to maintain his composure.
But the burning, the intensity...
Talara quietly adjusted the camera settings to better capture what was clearly going to be the real start of their Earth cuisine adventure. As she watched her boss trying to maintain his dignity while desperately reaching for his water glass, she had to stifle a light chuckle.
As you can see, dear viewers...
Groxnar's voice carried a slight rasp as he gestured to the array of dishes before him.
Earth cuisine incorporates a fascinating variety of traditional preparations.
He'd spent the morning gargling mineral solutions to soothe his throat after the pepper incident, though he'd never admitted on stream. They had relocated to a sushi restaurant for their next segment. Talara had suggested it specifically because the menu listed it as mild and accessible to all palates. She stood behind the camera, watching her boss attempt to rebuild his image after yesterday's footage had already begun circulating on the galactic networks.
Raw fish wrapped in vegetation.
Groxnar proclaimed, lifting a piece of sushi with surprising dexterity using all four arms.
While primitive, there is a certain artistic element to the presentation. Note the careful balance of textures.
He was trying hard to sound authoritative, though Talara noted he was being considerably more cautious about actually putting the food in his mouth. Dr. Liu Wei sat at the counter beside him, taking notes on his datapad. The food scientist had been hastily brought on as a consultant after the pepper incident, though he'd yet to have much opportunity to share his expertise. His eyes crinkled with carefully concealed amusement as he watched the massive alien delicately sample the sushi.
Quite mild, as expected,
Groxnar declared, visibly relieved.
You see, viewers, yesterday's incident was merely an unexpected reaction to a particular compound. As I've always maintained, proper understanding of local ingredients is essential for... Would you like some wasabi with that, sir?
The chef interrupted, already beginning to place a small mound of pale green paste beside Groxnar's plate.
Ah, yes, of course.
Groxnar agreed, not wanting to appear hesitant on camera.
Though, perhaps you could explain this wasabi for our viewers? It is a condiment made from a type of horseradish.
Dr. Liu interjected helpfully.
Many humans enjoy it with sushi for its unique flavor profile.
Groxnar nodded sagely, as if this explained everything.
A simple vegetable paste, then. How refreshing to encounter something so straightforward after yesterday's incident.
He scooped up a generous portion with his piece of sushi, determined to demonstrate his mastery of Earth cuisine. Talara's eyes widened. Sir, perhaps you should... Too late. Groxnar had already popped the entire piece into his mouth. For a moment, nothing happened. Then his armored plates began to rattle audibly against each other as his massive frame went rigid.
Fascinating reaction,
Dr. Liu murmured, furiously taking notes.
The allyl isothiocyanate appears to be having a pronounced effect on his respiratory system.
Groxnar's forearms flailed wildly as he stumbled backwards, crashing into the sushi counter and sending plates flying. The chef dove to save his knife collection while Talara kept filming, knowing this would be even more popular than yesterday's stream.
What kind of horseradish is this?
Groxnar bellowed, his voice reaching notes Talara had never heard from a Paroxian. He grabbed a pitcher of water and drained it in one gulp. Actually, that's not real wasabi. Dr. Liu noted clinically. Most restaurants use a mixture of regular horseradish and mustard oil, dyed green.
Real wasabi is much more expensive, and the compound breaks down quickly when exposed to air. This isn't even the real thing?
Groxnar's voice cracked as he overturned another section of counter trying to reach more water.
Oh no,
Talara muttered as she watched their carefully planned shooting schedule literally crash down around them. Still, she had to admit that this was far more entertaining than their usual careful script. Dr. Liu continued taking notes, seemingly unbothered by the chaos.
You know, if you're interested in exploring the full range of Earth condiments, there's this excellent Mexican restaurant just down the street.
Talara shot him a sharp look. The food scientist's innocent expression didn't fool her for a second. She was beginning to suspect bringing him on as a consultant might have been a mistake. As she watched her boss attempting to simultaneously apologize to the chef and demand explanations about weaponized vegetation, Talara quietly began researching Earth's medical facilities. Something told her they were going to need that information sooner rather than later. Are you certain about these safety measures? Martina Sanchez watched with a mix of amusement and concern as Groxnar's production team transformed her family restaurant's kitchen into something resembling a hazmat facility. The massive Paroxian chef stood in the center of a hastily constructed containment field, multiple sensors monitoring his vital signs. After the wasabi incident, we are taking no chances, Talara replied, adjusting her camera setup. Her pale plates gleamed under the bright kitchen lights as she positioned everything to capture both Groxnar and the small bowl of salsa sitting ominously on the prep counter before him. Dr. Liu consulted his datapad.
The containment field should neutralize any airborne capsaicin particles. though I'm quite curious to see how his filtration systems handle direct exposure. Oh, and Hanzo, the containment field should neutralize any airborne capsaicin particles, though I'm quite curious to see how his filtration systems handle direct exposure.
You're all being ridiculous, Martina said, crossing her arms. This is my grandmother's recipe. It's not even our spiciest salsa. Gruxnar's deep red plates caught the light as he drew himself up to his full height.
Madame Sanchez, with all due respect, your people's definition of spicy seems to differ significantly from galactic norms. The compound you call capsaicin is classified as a restricted chemical weapon in 17 star systems.
Actually, Dr. Liu interjected cheerfully, capsaicin is measured on the Scoville scale, which quantifies spiciness in units ranging from 0 to several million.
Several million?
All four of Gruxnar's arms tensed.
Surely you mean several hundred.
Oh no. Martina grinned. The Carolina Reaper hits about 1.5 million Scoville units, though we're not using those today. This salsa only uses habaneros, which are around 350,000.
350,000 units of chemical irritant?
Gruxnar's voice rose an octave.
And humans willingly consume this?
For fun, Dr. Liu added helpfully. Some people even compete to eat increasingly spicy preparations. Talara finished her camera setup and gave a thumbs up, a human gesture she'd adopted after noticing how effectively it communicated across species. We're ready to begin recording whenever you are, sir. Gruxnar stared at the innocent-looking bowl of salsa. His earlier bravado had evaporated in the face of these revelations about human spice tolerance. Still, he had a show to film, and his reputation couldn't sink much lower after the wasabi footage went viral.
Very well,
he said with all the dignity he could muster.
Let us proceed with this culinary experiment.
Remember, Dr. Liu called out, the emergency decontamination shower is to your left if you need it. And please try to describe the sensation for my research. Martina placed a single tortilla chip in front of Gruxnar. A small amount of salsa, no more than a teaspoon, glistened on its surface. The Paroxian chef picked it up carefully with one of his four hands, turning it this way and that, as if examining a suspicious device.
Honored viewers,
he began, his voice only slightly shaky.
Today, we explored one of humanity's traditional condiments, known as salsa. I have been assured this is a relatively mild preparation.
Martina suppressed a snort. Talara zoomed in on Gruxnar's face as he lifted the chip to his mouth. The moment the salsa touched his tongue, Gruxnar's eyes went wide. For a split second, nothing happened, and then all four arms began windmilling frantically as he lunged for the decontamination shower, crashing through the containment field in his panic.
Sweet merciful stars, it burns!
His voice echoed off the kitchen walls as emergency decontamination protocols engaged, dousing him with neutralizing chemicals.
How do you eat this for pleasure?
Fascinating, Dr. Liu muttered, recording everything. The reaction time was significantly faster than eating the wasabi, despite being notably weaker. Martina watched the scene unfold with growing concern. Maybe we should cancel the main course. I don't think he's ready for mo poblano. Talara, still filming her boss's dramatic reaction, could only nod in agreement. She had a feeling their simple documentary about Earth cuisine had just become a cautionary tale. The fascinating thing about capsaicin, Dr. Liu explained, projecting a molecular diagram into the air between them, is that it evolved specifically as a defense mechanism. The compound triggers pain receptors, creating an intense burning sensation meant to discourage consumption. Gruxnar sat in the medical bay of their production vehicle, still occasionally shuddering from his encounter with Martina's salsa. His deep red plates had been thoroughly scrubbed during decontamination, giving them an unusually matte appearance.
You mean to tell me that your species regularly consumes a substance that evolved explicitly to cause pain?
Oh yes, Dr. Liu nodded enthusiastically. And not only do we consume it, we have spent centuries deliberately breeding plants to produce more of it. The Carolina Reaper I mentioned earlier, that is entirely artificial, created through selective breeding to be as potent as possible. Talara looked up from her datapad where she began composing damage control messages to their producers. You intentionally made it stronger. But why? Because we could. Martina chimed in from where she'd been quietly observing. Some people enjoy the sensation. Others appreciate the challenge. There's an entire industry built around creating increasingly potent hot sauces.
In industry?
All four of Groxnar's arms wrapped protectively around his midsection.
You mean that there are facilities dedicated to producing these chemical weapons?
Actually, Dr. Liu's eyes lit up. There's one not far from here. Would you like to—
Absolutely not!
Groxnar began, but Talara cut him off. Actually, sir, the producers are insisting we continue the documentary. The footage of your reactions has generated unprecedented viewer interest. They've already scheduled a tour of that very facility for this afternoon. And so, despite Groxnar's vehement protests, they found themselves standing in the production facility of Dante's Inferno hot sauces. Humans in simple protective gear, just gloves and face masks, moved between massive vats of violently red liquid. As you can see, the tour guide gestured proudly at the facility. We process over 1,000 pounds of super hot peppers every day. The capsaicin extract room is through there, but we'll need to suit up before.
Extract room?
Dr. Liu perked up. Of course! Pure capsaicin is around 16 million Scoville units. We dilute it down for our sauces, though our signature product still hits 2 million units. Groxnar watched in horror as a worker casually adjusted a valve, releasing a stream of concentrated capsaicin into a mixing vat.
That worker, she's handling it with only standard protective gear? No containment field, no hazmat protocols?
Oh yeah, Sandra's got a great tolerance built up. Been working here for 5 years now. The guy beamed. Though we did have to install extra ventilation after she accidentally created a spice cloud last month. 3 people had to go home early that day.
You created
Groxnar's voice cracked.
You had an airborne, weapons-grade irritant release and you treat it as a minor workplace incident?
Well, sure, the guide shrugged. Nobody was hurt. Just some coughing, few tears. Now, would you like to see our pepper grinding room? We just got a fresh batch of ghost peppers coming through, and Groxnar backed away, all 4 hands raised defensively.
I believe we have sufficient footage. Talara, please tell me we have sufficient footage.
But Talara was already following the guide, her camera trained on a worker who was taste-testing sauce straight from the production line.
You can't be serious.
Groxnar's massive frame seemed to shrink into itself as he watched the video playing on the screen before them. His deep red plates had finally regained their shine after the hot sauce facility visit, but now they appeared somewhat dulled by sheer disbelief. Oh, this is nothing, Martina said, pulling up another video. Watch this guy. He's about to eat 3 Carolina Reapers back to back. The human on the screen popped the peppers into his mouth with casual ease. Sweat began beading on his forehead almost immediately, but he maintained a thumbs up for the camera. The physical reactions you're observing, Dr. Liu explained, gesturing to the contestants' reddening faces, are completely normal. Increased perspiration, elevated heart rate, endorphin release. It's all part of why humans seek out these experiences. Talara zoomed in on Groxnar's expression as they watched more footage of various eating competitions. Sir? Perhaps you'd like to comment on the cultural significance of these displays for our viewers?
Cultural significance?
Groxnar's voice cracked slightly.
They're voluntarily consuming enough capsaicin to incapacitate a Kraxnian war beast. For entertainment!
The competitive eating scene goes well beyond just spicy foods, Martina added. There are contests for speed eating, quantity challenges, extreme temperature consumption.
Temperature?
All 4 Groxnar's arms wrapped protectively around himself.
What do you mean, temperature?
Dr. Liu pulled another video up on his datapad. This competition involves consuming ice cream as quickly as possible right after a hot cup of coffee. The brain freeze effect can be quite intense, but the current record holder finished 2 liters in under 6 minutes.
Ice cream?
Groxnar leaned forward despite himself.
You mean they voluntarily induce thermal shock for sport?
Among other things, Dr. Liu nodded. We've documented numerous examples of humans deliberately seeking out physically challenging or painful experiences for entertainment. The endorphin rush creates what some describe as a natural high. They watched as another contestant attempted to break the ice cream record, clearly suffering, but pressing on regardless. Groxnar's confusion was evident in every line of his massive frame.
But this goes against every survival instinct, he protested. Pain exists to warn us of danger. My people are considered resilient because there is little that can cause us true pain. These competitions serve no practical purpose. They prove no necessary skill. On my world, we developed our resistances through necessity. The brutal demands of survival forced us to adapt.
That's what makes it fun, Martina said with a shrug. The challenge itself is the point. Here, watch the next one. This is a wing challenge at my cousin's bar. The footage showed a packed bar crowd cheering as contestants struggled through plates of blazing hot wings. Some were crying, others drinking milk by the gallon, but all were laughing between gasps of pain.
I don't understand,
Groxnar muttered, almost to himself.
My people pride ourselves on being the ultimate Deathworlders. We survive conditions that would kill most species instantly. We developed redundant organs and advanced filtration just to process our world's natural toxins. But humans? Didn't. You very much suffer the effects of the toxins you consume. And yet, you not only survive these substances, but you actively seek them out. You breed them to be stronger. You turn them into entertainment.
Dr. Liu nodded thoughtfully. There's a fascinating evolutionary psychology component to it. Our species developed not just tolerance to environmental challenges, but an active drive to push our limits. It's why we have sports, exploration, competitive eating, activities that serve no immediate survival purpose, but satisfy our need to test boundaries. Groxnar watched another contestant down a spoonful of pure ghost pepper sauce, raising their arms in victory as tears streamed down their face. His certainty about his species' supreme Deathworld status, once unshakable, felt increasingly difficult to maintain. After all, how resistant can one be to pain if they have never truly known it?
What exactly am I looking at?
Groxnar asked, all four arms held carefully away from the plate Martina had just set before him. His deep red plates seemed to dull at the pungent aroma wafting up from what appeared to be some kind of solid white substance.
Blue cheese,
Martina explained.
It's a milk protein that's been deliberately cultured with specific strains of mold. You intentionally let your food rot?
Talara interjected from behind her camera. Dr. Liu nodded.
Humans have developed quite the array of fermented and cultured foods. The bacteria and fungi involved in the process often produce compounds that would be toxic to most species.
And yet you consume them anyway.
Groxnar couldn't quite keep the disbelief from his voice.
Many consider them delicacies,
Martina said,
though I should mention that even humans often need time to develop a taste for stronger cheeses. We call them acquired tastes.
You mean you have to train to enjoy them?
One of Groxnar's hands reached tentatively toward the cheese, then pulled back.
Why would anyone persist in eating something they don't initially like?
For the complexity of flavor,
Martina replied.
The satisfaction of developing a more refined palate. Sometimes just for the social status of enjoying something others find challenging.
Dr. Liu pulled up some data on his pad.
Take coffee, for instance. The main active compound, caffeine, is a potent neurotoxin that plants evolved specifically to kill insects. Humans not only learn to consume it, we've developed a cultural and physiological dependence on it.
Dependence?
Groxnar's massive frame stiffened.
You mean you're addicted to a neurotoxin?
Most of us can't even start our day without it,
Martina agreed cheerfully, taking a long sip from her own steaming mug.
You want to try some? I think perhaps we should stick to cheese for now,
Talara suggested quickly, noting how her boss's plates had started to take on an almost dusty appearance at the mention of neurotoxins. She was already compiling quite the research file on human dietary habits. The variety of toxic substances they'd turned into food and drink was staggering. More interesting still was how many of these toxins required repeated exposure to appreciate. As if humans had decided that if something was merely unpleasant rather than immediately lethal, they'd simply push through the discomfort until it stopped being discomfort.
Ethanol is quite literally a poison,
Dr. Liu explained, gesturing to the busy bar around them.
It interferes with neural function, impairs cellular processes, and can be lethal in sufficient quantities.
And yet they're all...
Groxnar trailed off, his deep red plates reflecting the dim bar lighting as he watched humans casually ordering rounds of drinks. The massive Pyroxian had refused to sit at the bar itself, instead claiming a reinforced booth in the corner where he could observe from a safe distance.
We actually evolved specific enzymes just to process alcohol,
Dr. Liu continued.
though the really interesting part is how humans develop their tolerance.
Talara looked up from her camera setup. You mean you can become more resistant to it?
To alcohol, capsaicin, caffeine, most toxins, really.
Dr. Liu nodded.
Regular exposure causes the body to adapt, increasing its ability to process the substances. Though the tolerance fades if the exposure stops, and there are things that simply cannot be tolerated, like arsenic.
So you have to keep poisoning yourself to maintain resistance. What?
Groxnar asked incredulously. Their conversation paused as cheering erupted from the other end of the bar. The wing-eating contest was about to begin, and the contestants were taking their places. Each had a large pitcher of beer beside their plates of blazing hot wings.
Are they consuming alcohol and capsaicin simultaneously?
Talara zoomed in on the contestants.
Oh, yeah.
Martina grinned from where she'd been arranging extra lighting for the camera.
The beer helps with the burn. Kind of. Actually, now that I think about it. I remember reading a study that proved it just makes it worse, but, people seem to enjoy the combination.
They watched as the contest began. Humans alternated between shoving violently spiced wings into their mouth and washing them down with beer, their faces growing progressively redder as both substances took effect. Yet they were laughing between bites, encouraging each other even as tears streamed down their faces.
The biology of it is fascinating,
Dr. Liu mused.
The constant exposure to mild toxins and irritants has made us remarkably adaptable, not just physically resistant, but psychologically prepared to endure discomfort.
Groxnar watched as one of the contestants finished their plate first, raising their arms in victory despite being clearly off balance and redder than the sauce he spent the last 15 minutes drowning his food in. The Pyroxian's redundant organs and natural filtration systems had evolved to process his homeworld's toxins without conscious effort or discomfort. Yet here there were humans deliberately subjecting themselves to substances their bodies recognized as harmful.
They did not need to be durable.
I believe I owe your species an apology,
Groxnar said quietly. They had relocated to Martina's restaurant after hours, the kitchen peaceful now without the usual bustle of service. His massive frame seemed somehow less imposing as he sat at the prep counter, all four hands wrapped around a glass of water.
For what?
Martina asked, though her slight smile suggested she knew exactly what he meant.
When I first arrived on Earth, I thought...
He paused, his deep red plates catching the soft kitchen lights.
I thought I was doing you a favor by documenting your simple cuisine. That I was being generous by paying attention to what I assumed would be bland, safe foods from a garden world.
And now? Talara prompted from behind her camera.
Now I find myself wondering if my people truly deserve the title of ultimate Deathworlders after all.
Dr. Liu, completely unable to read the room, interjected.
Spice has played a crucial role in human history. Before modern preservation methods, many of these compounds served as natural preservatives. The antimicrobial properties of capsaicin, for instance, helped prevent food spoilage in warm climates.
Huh. You mean these toxins do serve a practical purpose?
Groxnar's interest was clearly piqued. Perhaps distracting him from his post-food depression was the point of the interjection.
Some were even used as a medicine, Martina added. My grandmother swore by chili peppers for congestion. Many traditional remedies incorporate spices we'd consider hot by today's standards. Though I should mention, she continued, beginning to prepare some ingredients, not all humans have the same tolerance for spice. What you've seen, the contests, the super hot sauces, that's actually a pretty niche interest.
Really?
Groxnar watched as she chopped vegetables with practiced ease.
But I thought...
Humans can handle more capsaicin than other species,
Dr. Liu explained.
But the level of tolerance varies wildly between individuals and cultures. Some people never develop a taste for spicy foods at all.
And yet they still thrive on this world. Groxnar mused. Even without the extreme adaptations my people developed, even without uniform resistance to these compounds, humans not only survived, but found ways to use these dangerous substances to their advantage.
Martina nodded as she worked. Every culture developed their own relationship with local ingredients, spicy or otherwise. Some embraced the heat, others found different ways to create complex flavors.
Speaking of which, she added, sliding a small bowl toward Groxnar, would you like to try something new? This is a much milder preparation than what we attempted earlier. It's how I introduce people to Mexican cuisine when they're not used to spice.
Groxnar eyed the bowl warily, but Talara noticed his posture had changed. The defensive tension he displayed during their earlier tastings was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like curiosity.
This is absolutely unprecedented, Talara said, scrolling through her datapad. Her pale plates caught the morning sunlight streaming through the station's viewing window. The network says your Earth cuisine episodes have broken every viewing record in the galaxy.
Fantastic, Groxnar muttered. My humiliation is officially quantified.
Despite his words, there was a hint of amusement in his voice as he watched various clips of his reactions being shared across galactic media.
Don't feel too bad. Dr. Liu looked up from his own work. Your documentary has sparked quite the scientific interest. A paper I wrote some years ago on human toxin tolerance has been selected for priority publication by the Galactic Academy of Xenobiology. Several research teams are already requesting access to my data.
The feeds displayed an endless stream of reactions to Groxnar's Earth experiences. Clips of his pepper encounter, the wasabi incident, and the salsa challenge had spawned thousands of response videos. Other alien chefs were cautiously attempting their own Earth cuisine documentaries, though none had quite matched Groxnar's dramatic flair.
The Zhernak Culinary Institute is revising their entire curriculum, Talara noted. They're adding a mandatory course on Earth-safe food preparation. Apparently, there's a huge surge of interest in human restaurants across the galaxy. Though, hopefully with better safety protocols than we initially had. Dr. Liu added. The Xenological Health Organization is drafting new guidelines for cross-species food service. They're using your footage as a case study.
Martina entered the station's common room carrying several containers.
Speaking of safety protocols, I have been working with some xenobiologists to develop scaling systems for human foods. Different dilution ratios for different species tolerance levels.
The Galactic Culinary Federation has requested your consulting services, Talara told her. They're establishing an entire division dedicated to safe adaptation of Earth cuisines.
Well,
Groxnar straightened up, his deep red plates gleaming.
I suppose some good came out from my educational experiences, though I maintain that no one warned me adequately about that first encounter with the black pepper.
That's because humans genuinely don't register it as dangerous, Dr. Liu said. We've documented similar perception gaps across multiple areas. Substances humans consider mild irritants are often toxic to other species, while environmental conditions we find merely uncomfortable can be lethal to others. The Galactic University of Medicine wants us to collaborate on studying human adaptability, Talara added, continuing through the absolute glut of emails and messages. Apparently, your footage of the hot sauce facility workers got their attention. They're particularly interested in how humans built up tolerance through exposure. And to think, Martina grinned, we haven't even shown you our pickled foods yet. Or started on beverages beyond basic coffee.
Groxnar's massive frame shuddered slightly.
Perhaps we should leave something for the next documentary. After all, someone needs to guide other species to their first encounters with the cuisine of the ultimate Deathworlders. Who better than a chef who has already learned those lessons the hard way?